and welcome to another Robot VARNAC video. Today's video is going to be how to soundproof an air conditioner, a window air conditioner in particular. This is the Frederich depending on how you pronounce the name, Chill Premier Series 6000 BTU air conditioner. It comes with an ordinary 120 volt outlet plug with the ground fault protector, and it draws 4.5 amps at 115 volts, they say. Well, the thing we're going to do is to soundproof it. You got to open up the cabinet. So the first thing you want to do before opening up the cabinet is to decide, do you want to void the warranty? Do you know how to open up the cabinet? And if you do open up the cabinet, do you know what to do once the cabinet is open for proper safety? In the case of this Frederich air conditioner, the refrigerant is explosive. I believe it's butane or propane. So you have to be very careful with the tubing inside. So let's get started and open up the cabinet. Carefully remove all the screws that you can see, and make sure you have a place to put the screws so they don't get lost. Oh, and before you actually begin, you need some paper patterns to make the pattern for your soundproofing material, a permanent marker, and in this case this is auto soundproofing from a well-known online retailer. The idea here is it has an aluminum covering over a heavy tar-like substance that deadens the sound for automotive purposes, but in this case it's going to be used for a window air conditioner. You'll also need some tree wound compound. This is better than roofing tar because it doesn't smell and it dries just as hard as regular tar. It's also a good compound. If you don't want to bother spending the money for the automotive sound panels, you can also use some aluminum flashing material to put over the tar material to recreate the automotive soundproofing material. So continuing, taking all the screws out, remembering where to put them. I just like to remind those YouTube music people that that's public domain music playing in the background. It's public domain, look it up. One thing that Frederich does well, they put these little plastic gaskets on the screws to help reduce sound vibration. So if you have another air conditioner, you might want to get some plastic washers to do the same thing, so help reduce cabinet vibration and reduce the rattling for your air conditioner. So not only we'll be getting some ideas from this air conditioner you could use in another air conditioner, because this air conditioner is supposed to be manufactured with extra soundproofing material, so we'll also see what that is once we get the cabinet out. But one of the ideas I've seen so far is they use plastic washers to help reduce vibration in the cabinet. Now, what are the most common sources of noise in a window air conditioner? It's mostly the unbalanced fan, because in most cases the refrigerant compressors are pretty silent already. They don't make much noise, so most of your noise will be coming from the unbalanced fan blades as the fan vibrates to move the air. Refrigeration compressors have improved a lot over the years, so they're pretty quiet these days. Just a few more screws to get out of here. One good thing is the front grill in this air conditioner removes for easy cleaning, so you can actually take the thing off and clean the grill along with the air filter. Now you don't want to use a power driver for this because you don't want to risk damaging any of the tubing or wiring. So it might be tempting to use a high-speed power driver to do this, but in this case you want to be very careful about taking the thing apart. And so you have press tabs that you press to free the cabinet from the outside housing. And now we have a better look inside. Let's get a better look at where all the action is here. So right off we see the compressor, and it looks like the newer, could be the inverter. It has the vertical like the newer scroll compressors, but it's hard to say. And it's moving right along. Let's see, get a better view here. Here's the service connection when they charged it at the factory. You can see the metering device where the midway point between the condenser and the evaporator inside here. And it looks like there's some good soundproofing material here already. You can see they even put a soundproofing over the metering devices. This is where the refrigerant sprays out of the condenser before it enters the evaporator. So you'll hear a spraying sound as the liquid refrigerant sprays into a vapor to evaporate in the evaporator and remove the heat from inside your home. So looking at the box here, you can see they have a good amount of soundproofing material already. The Frederich Chill Premier series is supposed to be known for their soundproofing, but we want to improve on that more. Oh, might as well point out, notice there's 3 rows of tubing for the evaporator, so making it more efficient to cool down and remove the humidity from the air inside your home. Most cheaper air conditioners will only have maybe 2 rows of tubing for the evaporator. So that's actually a good detail, allowing the evaporator to absorb more heat and be more efficient. Moving along to the condenser, you can see there's 2 rows of tubes in the condenser, but you can see that it's a larger surface area on the condenser than on the evaporator. Now getting to the good part of soundproofing. You don't want to disturb any of the tubing, of course, in the unit, because you don't want to risk damaging or breaking any of the pipes, tubing, so you want to leave all that alone. So they did have some foam here. That foam is too thin. I would rather have the automotive soundproofing material added instead. Another thing to be aware of in these air conditioners, you see that capacitor there to start the motor, and that capacitor could hold a lot of power, so don't touch any wires in here either. So you want to be sure and exactly know what you're doing. You don't want to touch any live wires and get electrocuted. So you want to make sure, if you have an older unit, one thing to help reduce noise is to oil the bearings on the motor there. So you make sure the motor turns smoothly. This is supposed to be a new machine, but you want to make sure the bearings are well oiled. You've even heard of cases where stuff would leave a factory and they wouldn't even oil the bearings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off so I can put a better soundproofing on there. I'll come right back. Okay, I got the piece of foam off. Well, one good thing about the Frederich series is that the foam that they're using is much denser than the usual white styrofoam that you would find in most air conditioners out there. So the higher density would help block sound. So that's actually a good thing, but we're going to show you how to improve it even more. So you can see how the air moves through the evaporator here. They even put some foam on here to keep the air sealed in there. You can see how the air moves through and into the fan through the evaporator and up and out through this hole here for the air movement. So carefully look around and see how much you can actually get to without disturbing the tubing. You want to remember, you don't want to disturb or bend any of the tubing. So looking at the Frederich compressor, you can see it has good mounts here. You can see it has nice rubber isolation mountings to keep reduced vibration from the compressor, and they even put the sound material over the needle valve there, so to keep sound of the metering valve to a minimum. And moving right along, so let's get the paper patterns ready and start measuring where we're going to put the soundproofing on here. Okay, now that we're looking at the compressor, we can't really get in there too close without disturbing the tubing, so I'm not going to bother getting in there. So you can only soundproof what you can actually get to, so you don't want to disturb the tubing. So what I'm going to do is only soundproof what you can, and so you don't want to ruin an air conditioner. Certainly it won't make noise if you break it, so you want to be careful. So one thing they had in the factory is this more spongy thin foam, but you need at least 2 inches of this stuff to really deaden any sound. So the The automotive sound deadening material will be much better because it's a heavier, denser material, and the outer aluminum will help reflect sound, when the inner heavy glue tire stuff will deaden the sound better than this cheap spongy foam. So what you want to do now is get your paper pattern ready and clean off the residue of this old foam from the factory, because you're going to replace this with the automotive sound material. You can only soundproof what you can easily get to, so any reduction in the sound will be better than what you started with, what they made at the factory. So you want to, basically I'm going to change this sponge rubber foam for the heavier automotive soundproofing material. So, but for the automotive soundproofing to work, you gotta clean off this old residue as best you can. One thing about the tree wound compound is you could slop that on anything and it'll stick. So I'm going to try to get up best you can. You can also use some sandpaper to clean off the residue too, to get to the original styrofoam layer. So you want to clean the foam off. So I'm going to put soundproofing material on here because the compressor is sitting right here, so at least reduce sound by 1/3, so any improvement is better than nothing. There's some foam down below, but like I said before, since you can easily get to it without risk bending the tubing, it's going to be left alone, and you can only soundproof what you easily can get to. So I'll be right back after I get this stuff off of here. What I noticed is this is 40 grit sandpaper that when you scrape it scrapes it off nicely too, so that get down to the original styrofoam so the glue will stick better. That's one way to get the foam off. Like you can see, it's here. It also helps roughen the surface for better adhesive contact. Now you might be tempted, well, if I put some glue in these joints here, that might help add more soundproofing, but I say no, because you want to be able to remove, take this thing apart again in the future if you need to, for example, to get to the bearing or something like that. So it already has a interlocking thing here to help keep sound out anyway. So don't put any glue or anything on here. You want to be able to take it apart for servicing. So let's move to the next step, and that's cutting your paper pattern to put soundproofing on here. The easiest way to do it is just to get a ruler and measure how much soundproofing you want, and allowing for these clamps, these clips here to be on there. So what do you know, it's 120 millimeters or 12 centimeters wide. So you could just cut a piece 112 centimeters wide by, as long as You want it to wrap around from one end to the other so you get one piece. So the next step is to use your permanent marker and your ruler and measure 12 centimeters like so. Doesn't have to be exact. You're not sending someone to the moon. So as long as you get it roughly in place. And you want to use a good pair of scissors. Since this stuff has tar on it, you want to use a pair of scissors. You want to be able to clean or use some kind of utility cutters because the tar inside is getting all gooey. And a good thing about the aluminum coating on here is it makes it more bendable, so you can actually bend this better and it's much more flexible, but you have to be careful of sharp edges because the aluminum is sharp. So get your material out here, and let me move this out of the way here. So you want to work from one end to the other. So you want to start where the joint starts here and bend it around. And that's actually better because at the compressor, it'd be good to have them overlapping. So for a thicker piece of material here. So what I'm going to do is, to get it to fit around the compressor where most of the sound is, so you want to start from the compressor end. So you want to, before you take the adhesive backing off, press it into place and start working it and bending it around to before you take the backing off, so you know how it's going to stick. This is also, since it has these plastic tips on there, you want to mark those for cutting. You can also use a razor knife too. The easiest thing is just to mark it with the scissors and cut into it like so. So you bend that up around the tab there, so it goes around. So you want to be able to take this thing apart, so you don't want to ruin the factory fittings to be able to take it apart again. You're just simply adding material to add additional soundproofing to it. So for this piece here, we're ready. Make sure there's no dirt on there, and I'm actually going to pull the backing material off. They tell you wear gloves for this, and you can see why. It's basically a heavy, gooey material. So I'm going to use my reference point here. Once you put this slop down, it doesn't want to get up again, so you want to press it good in place. You don't want to interrupt the factory fitting there. You want to be able to get it back together again, so make sure you don't get your soundproofing material in the joint for reassembly. So press it in place. Like they say, it's putting the slop on an underbody or inside your automobile to deaden road sound, but in this case you want to deaden outside sound. Say you have noisy neighbors and you don't want to, when you put the air conditioner in, the sound goes right through the material too. You might have the newer windows that keep sound down, so you want to reduce sound transmission through your air conditioner too. So in this case, the only problem is this is where the capacitor goes there. So I want the capacitor box, this control box here, to be able to fit on there. So I'm going to put this back up once the material's in place. And don't forget the top goes on here too, so you want the parts to fit together again. So be careful how you reassemble them. We're also going to touch up the tree wound compound too, so there'll be more coming. So 12, 13, 24, it's like 25 centimeters across, because you get two pieces 12 centimeters wide. But what I want to do is, you also have to be careful. You want to keep the fan motor separate, so you don't want to go too thick. If the fan motor touches this, there could be some vibration. So be careful with space. Make sure it fits with the fan motor, so there's just enough room that won't touch. So don't double it over without checking how it'll fit. So since the fan motor is right here, I'm not going to put any double layer here, so I'm just going to join the seam here and continue around this corner. So use your trusty ruler and get another 12 centimeter cut, which is so thin I'm not going to bother measuring that. Just, you could use the honeycomb to guide your cut too. So cutting along the edges of the honeycomb, you could get another 12 centimeter piece. Make sure it's all nice and clean. So bend it around. You don't want to take so you don't want to remove so you only want to cut as much as you need, so you don't want to cut too much. You can't really put the backing material back on after you cut the material. So you want to keep all the joints intact. so it all fits together again once it's in place. So press, like you're doing an automotive application, press it in place so the glue gets on there real good and stays there. Just like you're working with the car. You won't be able to get all of it without risk damage to the tubing, so the sound improvement you do get without damaging or breaking the air conditioner unit will be a vast improvement than before you started. So make sure it's all pressed in place there. This will also help deaden sound from outside. Like I said before, if you have crazy neighbors blasting music at 3 o'clock in the morning, it might help you a little bit too. Or if you blast music at 3 o'clock in the morning, it might keep the neighbors quiet. So continue to the next part and get ready to soundproof the top, because remember, here's where the fan is and here's the air outlet. So you want those parts to fit together. Well, what do you know? Let me know in the comments what you just noticed and you could win a valuable prize. So continuing right along, you want all that to fit together, and so the fan blows the air here and air comes out here. So to help reduce noise at the top, you're going to put some more soundproofing up here and along outside here to help improve sound efficiency. So to help make it easier to put more soundproofing material on there, I'm actually altering this surface so you can get the sound deadening material to stick on there better, and astute viewers might see what really happened while I'm doing that. So like I said before, let me know in the comments what happened. So the first person who does will get a robot VARNAC promotional item. But anyway, moving right along here, now we soundproof almost half of the casing here, mind you, so this would be vast soundproofing reduction. So let's continue the soundproofing to the top part here and put this other part aside for now. Now's a good time to check how it fits together in the casing. So here's where the top part of the casing fits. So you can see there's a good room there. And the soundproofing material, sound deadening material is actually pretty, because this is where the plastic front casing mounts, so there's not really much room for air there, because between the outside cabinet and the plastic casing, you could see that the cabin has this flange here to fit the plastic casing to the front of the cabinet and the inside. So you can't really go too close to the edge here without the parts fitting together. And you can see how they recreated that flange here on the edge. So I think I'm going to be careful and only add soundproofing to the inside ridge here and in the front, because since the foam is thicker here, that will absorb some sound too, but I'll take advantage of this channel here and this front part here and add more soundproofing here and allow the parts to fit together here so it You don't want to have any trouble reassembling this thing. Air conditioner is no good if you can't get it back together again. So use your trusty ruler and measure, and it says 6.5 centimeters, but I'm not going to go with the whole thing. I'm just going to cut maybe 6.2. I'm not going to be that accurate. I might be able to get 2 pieces out of this waste here to minimize waste. So I'm going to use these 2 pieces here and just cut down the middle. This is about 12, so I'm going to cut 6 to maximize material. So remember, these ideas are useful too. If you're working on a different air conditioner, you could use these same ideas. So as you can see, it fits in there nicely, and it'll also fit better without any chance of having problems when you're reassembling it. So make sure it's relatively clean. So if you're going to put some outside lip here, I'd say overlap it a little bit so form a better seal. Not the kind of seal you see at the zoo, but bend that edge over there so it'll join better with the material when you put it on the edge, or leave it up a little bit so when you join it you could get the gooey slop to join together when you put the next piece on. So I'm going to join these here. Take you can see how it overlaps there, so just take a marker, cut a little over so you can allow for the edges to meet when you put the new piece under here there. If you have more room, you can make the parts bigger so you could fit them together better. Remember, you'll never get 100% sound reduction, or you'll never become completely silent. But any improvement will be better than nothing, considering the time and effort you put into doing the work. So you want to have any top cabinet vibration either. So I'm going to start the soundproofing here and go here. So I'm going to cut the piece here and just let the part overlap here a bit. So I'm going to measure this width here. So it's 50 millimeters or 5 centimeters. So get another piece and cut it 5 centimeters wide. Once you know where one of the honeycombs lines up, you could probably just cut from there. And so I'm just going to see, you can see how they did a pretty good job at the factory cutting this stuff up, so you can use the edges of the honeycombs to make your cuts too without more complicated measuring too. So we could take a mark. I'm going to cut down through here. using the honeycombs as a reference point. And make sure there's no debris, and like I said before, you could use the sandpaper to remove the old foam and adhesive as best you can. You also roughen the surface up as you get it to smooth. You can see how the 40 grit sandpaper almost eliminates anything there in its way. So since this is, remember the compressor is sitting right here, so this is going to be a big source of noise, so I'm going to put the soundproofing wrapping right around here and through the front. Remember that the fan motor is sitting right here, so you don't want to double it up. Of course, if your air conditioner has more room and you can, if there's more room in it, you by all means double it up as much as you can to improve the sound deadening material. So just be aware of how much room you have to work with when you're putting this material on there. So I'm going to start from one end and work my way, bend it to form before you put it together, so you know how far you're going there with it. Remember, you want it to fit together, so you don't want to get in the way of the parts fitting back together again. You only want to be able to improve what soundproofing you can do. You're not really going to be able to get too much better. And like I said before, you could have these two parts. They're already sticking together. You see how sticky and gooey that is. You could have them meet in there to seal that off better. And you could press it around. Be careful, you don't want to. Aluminum edging is sharp there with the glue, so you're probably better off to wear gloves, or at least be aware that it's sharp. And like I said, I'm just going to press it around. In this case, the compressor is sitting right here. And what the tree wound compound is good for, it will seal up these edges, so when it's out in the rain, it'll seal these edges so that maintain the adhesive with the automotive undercoating here. So it's kind of like a roof. You'll have the tree wound compound and the water will just run down, and since it has this double edge, water won't be able to get inside, so it's going to run down too. And also this helps keep sound at bay because it has a double interlocking layer here to keep the sound out too, so that helps from the factory. Some of the cheaper ones, the parts will just fit together, and you might want to seal the joint if it only has flat surface there instead of a interlocking joint. So cut another 5 centimeter piece to continue around the other edge. I'm using the edges of the honeycomb. Like I said before, the aluminum coating will reflect a lot of sound instead of absorbing it, so it'll reflect it back outside instead of letting it pass through the heavy glue layer that will deaden the sound like an automotive underbody there, like for the purpose they really sell this stuff for. So bending it right along. And you'll notice there's a, remember, this is where the cabinet meets up, so you don't want to go into the cabinet, so you want to stop, mark your cut just before. But it's so sticky, it's already trying to join itself here. So the tree wound compound will be slopped on here to seal these joints up there. So you could press these parts together. And since I'm concerned about the cabinet fitting together up here, I'm going to cut this part off here and just cover it with the tree wound compound. And the good thing about the tree wound compound, it dries without the tar smell, because it's supposed to be used on trees, so it's actually a better, softer material. And some of the edges are hard there, so you want to tap it as flat as possible. So don't put the tree wound compound until it's reassembled. This is by the capacitor, the control box, so that doesn't really matter. But it does interlock there, so you want to cut that part off. You leave it up so when you do rejoin, you can just put it back together temporarily. Of course, if you're really sensitive to noise and you don't really care, you can seal the thing to your heart's content, and if you don't ever want to worry about taking it apart again, that choice is up to you. So now the thing is to move to the lower section. This part is about done, so you want to put this thing back, to start putting it back together again. While you have the parts out of the air conditioner, take some time and inspect for the airflow. You might see some rough edges there that you could smooth out to reduce drag in the air. And not the air of the dragon, drag in the air isn't restricting air movement. So check for any bumps or edges. You can see they did a pretty good job at the factory already, but if you can smooth it out more, like over here there's this rough edge, you could take that out. It might fit better with the control panel too. So just check for any restrictions on air you can find. It doesn't hurt to look. Once you got it back together again, it'll be very hard to correct. You might not even want to take this thing apart ever again once you're got it back together again. So after checking some other bolts, You could see that you could move this part out of the way. So you want to make sure it fits back together without breaking any of the parts. Another thing to look for is when you're putting your air conditioner back together again is to make sure the thermostat sensor is properly mounted. In this case, the thermostat thing was disconnected and laying down below the airflow, so it wouldn't get an accurate temperature reading. So the manufacturer put these little clips here to hold the sensor in the airflow for better thermostat control. If the temperature sensor is sitting below the airflow, it's not going to get a good temperature reading. So make sure your thermostat wire or tube, some of the older ones have little capillary tubes with a sensor like a furnace thermostat, thermocouple almost, for taking a temperature reading. So you want to make sure your thermocouple thermostat sensor is properly mounted, and make sure the cabinet is no rattles or squeaks. So once it's all reassembled, there's no squeaks or rattles. Well folks, that's about all there is to it. Now you're ready to apply the tree wound compound. So now you got all your joints in the air box sealed. You're ready to seal it up with the tree wound compound because it doesn't smell as bad as regular tar, especially since you'll be breathing the air from inside this thing. The tree wound compound actually works much better than tar, and it absorbs the sound and it dries nice like tar to keep the sound down. So what I'm doing now is putting some material to hold the air box together while you put the tree wound compound in place. If you have more room in your air conditioner, by all means, I'll put more of this stuff on there to help reduce sound even more. Because the thing is, you want the tree wound compound to dry out before you reassemble the unit. So that's why you want to do this before summer comes, and you want to be able to have your air conditioner back in service when it gets hot outside. So when you use the tree wound compound, you want to get like a cake spreader or putty knife to slop it on there to help seal up the sound box. So take a look around, make sure you got all the joints sealed, because once you put the tree wound compound, it's pretty much going to set it permanently in place. Of course, you could use it'll pull apart with the putty knife because you won't be able to get it deep in here, but the parts where you can get it in there, it'll be more removable. You could use a cutter knife and cut around the seam to free the tree wound compound, so you can pull the parts back apart if you need to. So let's get a putty knife and start slopping the tree wound compound around. Of course, the first thing to do is to clean up your work area. A clean workbench is a safe workbench, they say. Or so they say. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you keep a messy workplace, or do you keep it nice and neat? So here's the can of tree wound compound. Of course, a good suggestion for this is to use gloves. The tree wound compound is basically tar, so if you get it on your skin, it's going to be very hard to get off. So have gloves ready, or some paint thinner to get the slop off of you. So I'm using a jumbo popsicle stick, so getting into the little nooks and crevices in there. Just put the tree wound compound in there and basically seal, starting from one end to the other. You want to waterproof the joints where you put the automotive stuff together, and to seal the joints where, because a sound can travel through a little opening and transmit a lot of sound through even the smallest of openings. So if you're really concerned about sound transmission, you want to seal up all those little holes where sound can get through and make noise. Because once the cabinet is reassembled, it's going to help hold this thing back together again too, but you want to cover up the joints so it's like icing a cake. You want to smooth out the edges there. Seal up the little openings so sound can't get through, or water for that matter, because this is going to get wet in the summer thunderstorm or something, so you want to keep noise at a minimum. So it's like icing a cake where you keep the start from the lowest point first, because if you touch it with your hand, you're going to get the slop on you. So work with the lower points first, so you don't get the goo on your hands if you're not wearing gloves like I am, which is the silly thing to do. Do you wear gloves when you're supposed to when you're doing projects like this? So let me know in the comments. It'd be interesting how many other people don't bother wearing gloves when they're supposed to. We just want to get the project done and get where you think you're going to be careful, and then you, of course, you get the stuff on you anyway. So carefully work from one point to the other. Of course, make sure keep the spacing, the fan brackets away from the foam, so there's no sound transmission between the fan cage and the air housing there. You don't want to transmit more sound. The whole idea of this project is to help reduce or eliminate, well, not eliminate, but at least reduce sound transmission from the compressor and outside environment in your peaceful home environment. With more people working from home, you want a nice quiet environment, and you might not want to pay $1,000 for a so-called quiet air conditioner when you can do the work yourself like this, and probably even better than what you'd get from the factory without paying all that money. So let me know in the comments too if you found this project useful. How much did you actually buy a so-called quiet air conditioner and have it noisy? Other people want to know too. And you want to waterproof the joint so it sheds water without getting the water inside your home, like kind of like an undercarriage on your car. So slop the tree wound compound so it sheds the water. Of course, don't bridge the connection between the fan cage and the housing, so you don't want the fan rattling in the sound of the fan rattling in your home. There, just like icing a cake. You want to have this open so you can inspect it later, so I wouldn't be in a rush to reassemble this. You might want to add more compound later to any parts you might have missed. The tree wound compound dries in about 24 hours, which is actually better than tar. And it's dense like tar, so you get all the benefits of tar without the smell and odor of regular roofing tar. And you might be tempted to put material on the bottom, but the temperature change, you want the foam to be sliding on the pan of the air conditioner, so resist the temptation of putting any trying to wrap it all around. So you want that to move with the temperature, and the water will be flowing there. As water condenses in your home, it's going to be flowing out towards the outside, so you don't want water backing up in your home. And now you notice moving from bottom to top. And the thin layer on the top will help deaden sound too, because this company did use a nice dense foam on the air handling units, whereas a lot of companies will use white styrofoam like packing material. They actually opted for a more heavy, dense foam for the air housing, which would help deaden the sound too. And more tree wound compound will help deaden sound by itself, because it's so dense and heavy, like tar itself. It's meant for repairing tree damaged after a storm. So you want to bridge the connection and basically waterproof the connections with the, so water doesn't get in there and underneath the undercoating material, or at least you reduce water. That's why I say you should let this dry after a while so you could come back. You might want to put more tree wound compound later. Man, like icing a cake, you could put another layer on there. Because depending on how your air conditioner is set up, you might be able to put more soundproofing on than this one. These newer air conditioners are smaller than the older ones, and some of the older ones actually have the older refrigerant that doesn't require higher compression, like the newer refrigerant R410 for example has a higher compression rate, and so the compressor makes more noise with some of the so-called eco-efficient units with a higher compression, so the compressor has to work harder to get the same effect from the older refrigerants from the past. So if you have like an old air conditioner with that still works with R12, for example, it has a lower compression than the newer ones with R410. So check your check what kind of model you have. Ooh, see what I mean? Once you get this stuff on you, it's hard to get off, so have paint thinner ready. Or better yet, wear gloves like you're supposed to. In my case, I just want to get the work done, and you think, nothing's going to happen. I'm never going to get it on me. That's for other crazy people to do. But when it happens to you, you wonder, why wasn't I wearing gloves? It'll be like Uncle Jesse, dang, I just bought that set of gloves, I don't want to use them. Dang, I just bought that tire. So once you get the soundproofing material on there real good, Another thing to consider, you want to keep these parts in from moving too, so put some a little bit of tar around here too to lock them in place if the adhesive does fail and they start moving around. It'll at least keep them from sliding around. So make sure you get the soundproofing goo on there. Remember, they don't want to. You might be tempted to cover up the tubing, but don't cover up the tubing because that's part of the refrigerant system. You don't want to disturb that, so you want to leave that alone. And yeah, you don't want to cover up any of the tubing or the compressor. You think, oh, if I cover up the compressor, they'll stop all the noise. But then if the compressor overheats, well, yeah, it won't make any more noise, but you won't be getting very cool if the compressor overheats. So don't cover the compressor unless specified by the manufacturer. You just want to soundproof what you can. So any little improvement will be beneficial than what it came from the factory. Remember, the factory is following the cost-benefit rule. They want to maximize their profit at the lowest possible cost. So if you want to pay $1,000 for a more soundproofed air conditioner, you have to pay extra. But if you could do the work yourself like this, you're basically paying for your own soundproofing, then the factory's not putting up any extra money. So you want to, don't touch the compressor, don't touch the tubing around the compressor, and leave all that alone. Now another thing to look at is the cabinet housing itself. One thing you can do is take some of the tree wound compound and slop it around the inside of the housing to help absorb sound. Like you could see this round area above the compressor, you could fill that in with some tree wound compound. It'll help deaden the sound from the compressor too. Better yet is probably put the soundproofing material in there instead. And let's see if we have any left. Nope, that's all I had. So I'm going to show you the other way to soundproof, and that is using aluminum flashing. Let's say you didn't have the tree automotive undercoating. Here's a piece of aluminum material from an old coffee can. So I'm going to cut that to size and simulate the aluminum covering from the automotive undercoating. Heavy exterior, closed foam exterior foam would probably be better for this to absorb sound from the compressor. But the sound deadening material of the tree wound compound will be similar to the glue from the automotive undercarriage, and it's another option to consider for demonstration purposes only, of course. If I had more automotive underbody stuff here, I would be putting on here, but the friend only gave me so much and I only have a little bit to use, so I'm going to show you how to use this material from an old coffee can. So take your kit material here, and it doesn't have to be exact. Cut off the rolled edges. And flatten it out. And here's where you probably want to use gloves. So press it in there. I'm going to use some of the waste paper from press it in there. You don't want to go too, peel it off and throw that away into the garbage can. Aloha. Use another piece to do the other side. Press it in there. You don't want to squeeze all the tree wound compound out. You want some in there to deaden the sound, so don't squeeze all of it out. You want some in there. And now looking at the another thing to do is look around the grating and just put some tree wound compound. Watch where this is the outside edge, so you could put some material out there too, but make some zigzag marks. Zigzag marks to deaden the sound. This will also help quiet raindrops falling on it too. So just make some like zigzag patterns to deaden the sound. To keep the sheet metal from vibrating when you put it back together again. You'll notice that there's two screw holes here, so you don't want to put anything near the screw holes because that attaches to the inside there. The idea here is to use the tree wound compound to deaden, absorb the vibrations in the sheet metal to absorb more sound. Since this area here is by the compressor, add more because that's where the compressor is. So you could put more material there to deaden the sound of the compressor. And since the grates are right there, the sound's just going to go right outside the side anyway, so there's no really worry about the side vent there. But these wider surface panels have more surface area for it to vibrate, so You want to cover the wide areas of sheet metal to keep it from vibrating, so deaden the sound on the wider areas. Well, after you let it dry a day or so, it should be able to be put back together again. So, well, once it dries, you reassemble it, you're good to go. So, thanks for coming, and that's all for now. Well, I'll do a follow-up video once it's reassembled and see how well the sound deadening material works. So, don't forget to like and subscribe and share if you found this video useful. Let us know in the comments. So, see you next time.